At the time, though, when you're building and your whole life is consumed by that startup and that's your baby, it's hard to really think about, well, yeah, okay, there's another deal around the corner. It feels like this is everything. But I do understand there is another deal. No matter, even if you think if your whole life is wrapped up in it, there's still another day.
Hello, hello, hello. Today we have an amazing guest, William King. He is founder of 4 amazing companies and he sold 3 of them. And today he is an angel investor and he is ready to share his experience and secrets of his success. Please meet William King.
Hello. Good to be here. Good to see you again, Leon.
Hi, William. It's amazing to have you on my podcast, and I think my audience will be very interesting about some very specific insights you can share about how actually it's possible to sell 3 companies. So it's a huge success. Out of 4 companies, you sell 3. Wow, amazing. So please, let's start from your first company. How did you find idea? How did you build? What kind of mistake you have done? And what you learned actually from your first business.
Well, I don't think you want to hear about my mistakes because that could take the whole podcast and 10 others. Because there've been a lot of mistakes along the way. But
Good luck.
yeah, there's not really any mistakes, right? You learn and it just helps you succeed next time. When I started my first business, I didn't know anything. I mean, I didn't have a mentor. I really I did not know the first thing. I happened to have the good fortune. I was a business manager at a Ford dealership here in town, and I got some decent business experience in that as far as negotiating and just seeing that business run and being a manager there. Had a little experience, but as far as entrepreneurship, I didn't know the first thing. Um, and I mean, I couldn't have been more green. My father died early when I was 8 years old. My mother raised me. She was a school teacher. So I just didn't have any type of mentorship or anything at all. So I was as green as you could possibly be. Um, and at that time, I was in the car business. I started a 900 automobile related 900 number back many years ago. A lot of people probably listen to today don't even know what a 900 number is, but it was a number you could call and get information, and the bill would show up on your telephone statement each month. And so I basically wrote a pamphlet um, detailing various things about how to buy a car if you had poor credit and whatnot. Um, and we just gave that information out over a 900 number, and if you left your address, we'd send you the pamphlet and that sort of thing. Um, but I didn't know the first thing. I think I'd spent about $20,000 on credit cards to get this uh, everything set up and going before we even could test it. I didn't know anything about MVP or testing before you go in. So I went in and expecting to win, and we did. We did well with it. Very, very. I think it was luck more than anything at that point in my life. But we spent $2,000 the first month on advertising, and we grossed 15,000. And so we're off to a good start. And uh, it was just a lot. I think I just had luck involved. We just happened to hit something that worked right off the bat. Ended up scaling up over time, borrowing money from friends and family. Again, knowing nothing about raising money. I had an uncle show up at my office with a a grocery bag full of cash.
Wow.
I mean, it was just as bare bones and as green as it could possibly be, but, we figured it out as we went.
Yeah, that's very interesting because it's some kind of paradox happens. That time you couldn't find a mentor because people didn't know how to build companies yet. It's everything just started. So you have to learn by yourself. Even I started in 2008 like an entrepreneur. I I couldn't find a mentor, good mentor. People didn't make exits yet to become mentors and to spend time on teaching somebody else. All accelerators just getting started. So, yeah, that time. But what the paradox is that really everything was very, very expensive. You should spend a lot of money just for internet, for building something. People didn't know what to do. But at the same time, the field was clear. Any idea could bring you business, could make you money. Market wasn't so red like today. It was totally blue ocean.
Blue Ocean.
So from one side, you don't have any experience and nobody can help you. From another side, nobody can compete with you. So it's interesting. Today, you have a whole industry is working for you and helping you, but it's so much red ocean. You cannot swim there at all. So I don't know what is better, but I think your time is much better because you were the first and in the blue ocean, and I like this very much. And if it's not a secret, how much have you raised for your first company? Or did you
Yeah.
raise?
I don't it was been so long, it would probably just have been in the tens of thousands. It wasn't a big amount of money.
Wow.
I just didn't have any money myself. I was putting, all the advertising on credit cards, and there for a while, our advertising, we were spending, low six figures a month on advertising, and we had to the trick at that time was to have enough credit on the credit card. So we had a lot of different credit cards. We were putting 5,000 on this one and 20,000 on that one. And one trick I had at the time, and they've since that they don't allow you to do this anymore. But I remember when it occurred to me, I would send the credit card more money than I owed on it. So I would send tens of thousands more. So that would give me a credit, so I could charge a lot more than the limit on the card. But you can't do that anymore. But at that time, that was a trick that I used to be able to use those credit cards to buy advertising. But you're right. You make an interesting point, Leon. There was a lot less competition. It was definitely more of a blue ocean back at that time, and I think a lot about right now compared to the early days of the internet. I guess my third company was a company that was a web services company, and so we started around 94, 95. And so I see a lot of similarities now with AI. But I think a lot about how, we were able to just be gritty and get in there and start a company. I'm just wondering, I could see where it's a little trickier now because there are so many people aware and ready to jump in.
Yeah, interesting. And what is the biggest multiplier you did when you sold your company? I mean, ratio between how much did you invest and your sales price.
I don't know that figure right off the bat, but one thing that I really think about a lot, is how much you leverage by starting a business. Like when you're investing, you can invest. Let's just take six figures. You put $100,000 into something, whether it be real estate or some sort of venture, right? You're really hoping for a 10x, right? You're hoping for a 10x, so you're hoping to return 1,000,000 on that 100,000, but you can start a company for, close to 0. You can leverage other people's money, and that can turn into millions and millions of dollars or tens of millions or there's really no limit. But I do think a lot about that, and I enjoy that as a, as an entrepreneur. um, that's really something that is really special, and something that I don't know of any other way to do it, right? But you can just have an idea and turn that idea literally into millions of dollars. You're spending a lot of time. It's not like there's no risk involved. When you are an entrepreneur, your head's down, you're consumed with it. Um, there are opportunity costs, there are costs to your family and friends, that because you're consumed with it. But it is, to me, one of the really cool things about life is that you can start a business for little or no capital and turn it into a substantial amount of money.
Yes, exactly. That's interesting. And even more, for example, I teach entrepreneurship in the university, and what I learn is impossible to teach. I teach something that's impossible to teach. It should be somewhere inside. So I immediately, when I talk to people, I immediately recognize if this guy has entrepreneurial mind or not. And I think only maximum 5% of people have some entrepreneurial mind and capability to build a company. But many people, much more people, start the business trying this and thinking they could raise money, they could succeed, and they go into accelerators. Accelerator teaches entrepreneurship as well. But again, there is a huge difference between mindset, right mindset and wrong mindset. And how to understand exactly you're an angel investor as well today. So how do you understand that this specific uh, entrepreneur has all capabilities to deliver?
Well, that's a really good question, and you touch on something there that is certainly not my area of expertise, but I have noticed over the years, I have, come up with various ideas, and in my head, I saw it as clear as crystal, right? I have the idea. I know exactly how to execute on it. I know the market is ready for it, that kind of thing. But you share that with someone else, and they just can't see it. And I don't know how to explain that. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. But I do think that has a component of what you're talking about, that the entrepreneur needs to be able to have that vision. And they need to be passionate about it, because I don't care what you're starting. You're going to go through a lot. It's not easy. I mean, to take an idea from inception to the market, testing and everything that's involved. There's a lot that has to happen. It's a lot of work. You have to be absolutely hell bent on making that work. Um, so you have to have the vision, and you have to have just the grit and the stick to itiveness. You just won't be denied. You have to win. You have to wake up every morning with it on your mind. You're in the shower with it on your mind. You're in the car. It's on your mind. You're obsessed with it. And that's what it takes. Somebody I was listening to, this was many years ago. It was a financial planner named John Sestina, and he said something at that time that didn't make sense to me at that time, but makes perfect sense to me now. And when you're talking about assessing those teams, and that this is what comes to my mind. Um, he said, "It's better to be in a bad deal with good people than to be in a good deal with bad people." And at that time in my life, I was in my 20s, and I was just like, I just want to be in any deal. I'd love to be in a deal with bad people, as long as it pays off. I don't. But now, man, I really, really understand that, because um, the people are so important. That founding team. Um, it's so important that you have good quality human beings, that they're smart, and that Venn diagram is important. The complementary skills. If you're weighted in one direction, You have to balance that out because you have to sell, you have to get it built, you have to have all of the different skills on that team. Um, but being a good human being, I tell you, there's no there's no replicating that. You have to have that. It has to be at the core.
Yeah, I saw a lot of entrepreneurs. They just looking for the money, and they believe in what they're doing, and they don't pay attention on whom they take money from and whom they partner with. And because they think, okay, I was in the same situation. Okay, in future I will solve this. What I need today, I need money to make it. And in 5 years, you recognize that you can lose everything. So you spend 5, 7 years on building something, but because it was wrong movement, wrong money, bad people, you can lose everything.
Yeah.
And this happens all the time. So today I understand that maybe it's better not to do something, as you said, than doing something with bad people and bad money.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you really have to find the right people, the right team, and make sure you're dealing with really good quality human beings. I just think that's where it starts. You can build from that, and I mean you can you can overcome various challenges as long as that's the core. But if that core is messed up, I mean I've seen it. I've experienced it firsthand, and
Yeah.
you just yeah, you're not going to be able to, create success with the wrong people.
And there is an interesting attraction law. I could sell some opposite to attraction law. When you start, you attract bad people and bad money because people who couldn't work with some experienced entrepreneur, they come to you and try to screw you. And because you cannot recognize in time what happens, you can lose as well. So this some law of attraction law of bad attraction. It happens all the time when you are looking for money, investor, when you are looking for a partner, when you start first sales and first deals. Every time when you just start, only not only but most of the people you are dealing with, bad people and bad deals, because I think you are eager to do it. And if you want something very much, you attract bad things.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta be careful of that. Sometimes, Leon, there are trade-offs, right? Sometimes you're in a spot and you have to take the money, because without the money, you don't survive. But you wanna try to avoid those situations as best you can, by making good decisions and surrounding yourself with the right people. And one thing, talking about the right people that I would say, that I would definitely advise young founders, and one thing that I didn't do a good job of is start networking early. Really get out there, force yourself. I had social anxiety when I was growing up and earlier in my career. I feel like I've overcome that for the most part. But that was one of the reasons that I didn't network very much. But I would definitely encourage young founders to go out and network and meet as many people as you can, um, and really get to know them, spend some time with them. And networking is very, very important, especially in your local area. Depending on the type of business. I know a lot of engineers, are not really big on going out and being social. I'm not an engineer, but I can relate to that. But it's very important to get out there and meet people. You'll learn so much from it. It'll be invaluable, and that will help you get to that smart money you're talking about, as opposed to having to take money from people you might
Yeah.
might.
And what about exit? Let's talk about exit. You had 3 exits. So how you I would like to know your view on the exit, when to start to think about it, how to make the deal. So could you share your experience?
Well, it's all different. Every single one was different. The first one was a situation where I owned a franchise, and a public company came in and bought the whole, all the franchisees out. Um, so that what a lot of thought in mind. I wasn't expecting to sell, just sold. Um, so the situations vary. But one person I did have as a mentor, along the way, that I still have to this day, really close friend of mine. He told me that there's two purposes in business. You either want to turn it into a money machine, or you're going to sell it, one or the other. So just have that in mind. I think that I don't think you need to go in with the out with an exit in mind. I think the right mindset is to go in, knowing you're going to build something of value, something that's going to be long standing, not something that's just going to be a flare, and just something of that. Anything that someone's going to pay a lot of money for, it needs to have legs, right? So I think going in thinking of it as a legacy, but also you have to be open to the fact that you may have the opportunity to sell, um, is important, and then if, I've had, I have friends who have spent a lot of time hiring companies and consultants that come in and help you get your business, in order to sell. I listened to Patrick Bet-David's, podcast. He was talking about years ago, he was going to sell, but, he met with a consultant, and there were a couple of things that they needed to really dial in, before selling, to really get the right value, and that took a couple of years. It was a process, to get those things in place. I don't remember the details, um, but having the right, expertise in all of these areas, whether it be investing or in anything, the right knowledge and expertise is very important. Um, but I would just say, going in as a founder, plan to build something that's going to be, viable, not something that you're planning on selling. But if the time comes and it makes sense to sell, I would just say, make sure you're getting the right counsel and the right people to help you do that, because it's a very specialized process, and man, you want to get it right, because in all these things there are gotchas along the way you want to avoid.
Many investors, they ask founders, how are you going to sell? In a pitch deck, they say exit slide. So show me your A exit opportunity. So I have a lot of friends doing a lot of exits, and they all said, we start thinking about exit from the beginning. So we build a company, we identify our potential acquirer, and we build a company just that feeds the requirements to be acquired by these potential companies. And at the same time, we are looking for, like investors, we are looking for skin in the game. And we are looking for the founder who is going to build the company not because of exit, but because of he's going to bring some value. So here another paradox happens. So how to get out of this for the founder? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question, because investors they want to know how to get their money back. Um, and on a lot of these deals, an exit is what it's going to require really to get the money back. But I just, again, the one guy who is sort of a mentor to me, he's kind of old school. And he thinks in terms of, you need to pay dividends, get the investors paid back, through, dividends, something that's actually making a profit. And the exit will take care of itself. So that's kind of an old school way of looking at it, but that is the way I look at it. But I do appreciate the fact that as an investor, you want to know how you're getting your money back, and you're going to be targeting a 10x or whatever it is. And a lot of tech companies, I mean, that is the goal going in. Your goal is to be acquired. But I just think from a founder's standpoint, you really need to believe. You need to believe in what you're doing, and you need to be completely passionate about it. And you need to, focus on something that you're building long term. The exit, I think, in the way I think of it, the exit will take care of itself. Um, you know, uh, but to, really focus on make sure you're building something of value and that has legs. And the other thing I would say, and this was something I learned early on, that was hard at that time, and this was when I was in my 20s. My friend said, he said, "William, there's always another deal," and so at the time, though, when you're building and your whole life is consumed by that startup and that's your baby, it's hard to really think about, well, yeah, okay, there's another deal around the corner. It feels like this is everything, right? But there is always another deal. I mean, I've had companies where my whole life, my whole purpose, everything was wrapped up in the company. Um, but we ended up, various companies, either exited or turned into a long-term, long tail, whatever. Um, but I do understand there is another deal. No matter, even if you think if your whole life that is wrapped up in it, there's still another day. And there'll be a completely new focus for you. There's always something to do.
Yeah, thank you. Great insights. And actually, everything what you're talking about, you share some great experience and amazing insights. So, just last question. What would you share with founders? Some very valuable advice based on your mistake.
I would just say, well, I'll say 2 things. Number 1, if you're employed, keep your job as long as you can. A lot of people think founders are risky, but founders aren't necessarily risky. They're willing to take a chance, but keep that job as long as you can. The first company I had, I had a job. I was working 70 hours a week, but I started it part-time. And it was making, it took over my income part-time, before I left the job. And if I had to do over again, I'd probably keep my job longer. I don't think entrepreneurs are as I think they're more risk averse than you think. I just think that they have a vision and they feel like they can execute it, and something inside of them is compelling them to go through with it. But that doesn't mean you have to risk, everything and your life, your family, your everything, right? You can sort of walk and chew gum at the same time. So I would just say keep that stability as long as you can, as long as it makes sense. Um, and just surround yourself by the right people, network, learn as much as you can. Make sure you're an expert at whatever you're doing. Go in deep, um, and just put the blinders on and get after it, and go after what everything you can, because that's what it's going to take.
Thank you, Willie. It was amazing conversation, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot. I didn't have free exits, so that's really nice. So thank you very much for sharing your insights. We had amazing meeting with William King, entrepreneur, investor, uh, who experienced free, meaningful exits. And please don't forget to subscribe to my podcast, Venture Growth with Leon Eisen. Thank you very much.